Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video and I'm finally getting around to doing my review for Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed. This is going to be very long. I do have a lot to say about this and I do apologize for it taking so long to arrive. Uh, Basically, I've just been very busy with a lot of things, but I had some free time right now, so I really wanted to get this out. I do have about 4 other Xenoblade related videos in the works right now. I already have written the script for a few of those, and I'm working on the script for some others. But yeah, I've just been very busy, so I'm sorry it's taking so long to get this. Also, just because I want to get this out, just like with my review for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I'm not going to go really fancy with the editing at all. So this is going to be mostly just like a podcast. So I'll try to add a few videos or a few pictures here and there, but for the most part, it's just going to be one picture or 2 pictures or something like that. I just really want to get the editing done for this super fast. Just because, again, I'm so busy and I do want to work on a couple other things as well. And if I sit down and edit this, it's going to be a very long time for me to actually get this out. So with all that said, let's just go straight into the review. I'm sorry that my voice seems a little bit more mellow right now. It's been a very long day. I've had to talk a lot at work today, so my voice is just really like tired. But with all that said, I'm very excited for this. Let's get into my review for Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed. So, as I've said many times before, the Xeno series as a whole is very special to me. My favorite up to this point was Xenoblade 2, and then Xenoblade 3 came out. And while I did write my thoughts on both games, I only really uploaded my thoughts on Xenoblade 3. Eventually, I do want to put my thoughts on Xenoblade 2 and the other Xeno games as well, because I have written thoughts for all of them. I still, however, though, don't really feel like I did justice on my thoughts on Xenoblade 2 and why it's so good and one of my favorite games of all time. However, for Xenoblade 3, I definitely did. I definitely put a lot of time writing that review. So yeah, I definitely hope you guys check that out. The link for that is in the description below. And before we get into the review, I just wanted to say that there's going to be spoilers for all Xeno games, and obviously especially Xenoblade Future Redeemed. But with that said, let's get into this. So when Xenoblade 3 came out, I was honestly a bit depressed, and honestly that game helped me so much. And as Xenoblade 3 went on and the story went on, I was honestly more and more amazed with it. And honestly, it quickly joined Xenoblade 2 as my favorite game in the Xeno series. And as the months went on, I was pretty excited for the DLC story, but I wasn't fully sure if I wanted it to be a prequel or a sequel. But I did feel like the game was going to be a little bit of a mixture of both a prequel and a sequel. I was kind of hoping it would be a 70% prequel and a 30% sequel, but we weren't sure. But anyway, then the trailer came and we saw Shulk, Rex, and Alvis, and a new character who we now know as Matthew. And when this trailer came out, I was freaking out. The title of the game, Future Redeemed, was also so confusing because seeing these characters definitely made it seem like it was a prequel, but then the title made it seem like it was a sequel. And I just had so many theories. And then there was the data mining that happened, and so many leaks came out, including all of the DLC packs for Xenoblade 3. And that also ended up in giving us the cutscene titles for Future Redeemed. And this is where things got a lot more exciting for me. Maybe later on I'll do a little video where I do talk about what my theories were when I was just reading the movie file names for Future Redeemed, but we're not really going to talk too much about that here. But what I will say is that the title of these cutscenes basically made me research so much on what they could mean, and again, I came up with so many theories. And when the game was announced to be coming out way earlier than anyone thought, honestly, I thought it was going to come out in the middle or late summer, but it ended up coming out in April of last year of 2023. And so basically, it was just a few months after the first trailer released, which was in February 2023. And when the first trailer released, we didn't even get a release date, so that's why I thought it was going to be much later in the year. So when we were told this, that it was coming out in April, I was so excited. And then the game finally came out, but I was so busy. So it took me so much longer to actually play it and beat it, and even longer to write my thoughts on it. Honestly, I probably beat the game in late May or early June of last year. And honestly, when I was writing this, it's it was the middle towards the end of October. So yeah, as you can see, I've been very busy, and I'm recording this in the beginning of February 2024. So that gives you guys a time frame of how long it's taking for me to actually get this out. So backtracking a little bit, originally before I wrote my thoughts on Xenoblade 3, I had made so many other essays talking about many things that are important to that essay for Xenoblade 3's big review. And in one of those other essays, which again, my playlist for all of these in the order you should watch them is in the description below as well, there was a particular essay where I analyzed the themes and concepts of Xenoblade 3, and on it, I said that if there was any new or different ones on Future Redeemed that was not on Xenoblade 3's base game, then I would make a follow-up video for that. So this is now a little bit of a disclaimer, or not really a disclaimer, but a little bit of an announcement as well. So after playing Future Redeemed, while there were a few different themes and concepts that was not in the base game, most of them were still the same of the base game. So instead of doing a whole follow-up essay and, you know, writing that, making the edit and uploading it, I'm just going to talk about those things in this particular video as well. So it's a review plus a analysis review as well. Second, before I made my thoughts on Xenoblade 3, there was 2 other videos that I had made, which were talking about connections that the Xenoblade games can have to Xenoblade X, and why I think that they are all connected to Xenoblade X. So that is one of my 4 or 5 different videos that I'm writing. I have already written the script for that. So this is another announcement. There is a third video. Again, there was 2 for those, so there's going to be a third part for that. And that's probably going to be when I'm going to be releasing Xenoblade related after this video. Since Xenoblade Future Redeemed definitely gave us a lot more to work with, that basically proves what I've been saying with those videos. But anyway, with all of that said, what did I actually think of Xenoblade Future Redeemed? What are my thoughts? Now that all of these announcements and disclaimers are out of the way, what do I really think about this amazing concluding chapter to this particular saga of the Xenoblade series? And keyword I just said there, it's amazing. So I was amazed by it in every way, and I was so happy with it, with like just so many things. First, let's just quickly get the music out of the way. It's fantastic. There isn't much more to say about it other than that. It's basically the perfect mix of all the Xeno games while adding in its own flavor as well, which is honestly a little bit jazzy like Future Connected, but in a more somber way. And like in the base game, there are many elements from different songs of the past games mixed together, which is honestly amazing. However, there is 2 songs in particular I want to talk about. The first is the title menu song. This song is a classic Xenoblade piano ballad, and it is so emotional, so motivational, and so mysterious. This song is so good, and when I first heard it, I was so amazed by how simple and powerful it is, and honestly, I still feel like that even now. This song definitely joins the ranks of some of the best songs in the series as a whole, and the same can be said for the music in the Aurora Shelf area, that first big open area that you get to basically. The entire OST for this game is just so good, and it really elevates the music from the base game as well, as it is a great contrast to it, and it's also a further mix of all that came before. Now, I've mentioned that the music is great, and a great mixture of all that came before many times, and while this is also true, it's even more present with the closing song, which is the second song I really want to talk about. That song is called Future Awaits, and this song is fantastic. And like many of the closing songs in the entire Xeno series, this song is a legendary song. It feels ancient, it feels modern, it feels mystical and innerly thoughtful, and also very relatable. The vocals are so warm and tender and peaceful and melancholy, and it makes me think of songs such as My Heart Will Go On from the Titanic movie, or the song Eyes on Me from the game Final Fantasy VIII. In other words, it's a powerful song, and it uses the flutes and pianos here so masterfully. It's just amazingly done. It is so beautiful, and really it resonates so much with me for so many reasons. Honestly, this song is a perfect closing song, and it talks about looking forward even though you have been through so much, and that you have dreams for the future and you want to chase them, but you're scared of what will be. But you have to have faith and you have to let go of those worries and realize that things will work out somehow and some way, and that you have to move forward, and that you won't always be alone in doing so, and that you will also be moving forward with love from those that have been with you on your journey the entire time. This fully captures the entire theme of Xenoblade 3, the theme of the Xenoblade series, and honestly the entire story of the Xeno series as a whole. But it goes even more than that. Takahashi, the creator of this series, has basically struggled for 25 years to tell this story. In fact, before I forget, because I don't remember if I wrote this later on, but Xenoblade Future Redeemed is released on the 25th anniversary of the Xeno series. So I want to go in a whole happy celebration mode for it, but we'll try to save that for the end. Anyway, Takahashi's been struggling with this series for the past 25 years to tell this story, and like many of the closing songs from the Xeno series, he wrote the lyrics to this song himself. So this is basically a reflection on his journey as well, his reflection with this story that he and his wife started 25 years ago, well technically over 25 years ago because of game development time frame. So it's a reflection of him and his journey with this story, his reflection with the companies that he has worked on in trying to tell this story, and his reflection with him, the story, and how it joins with us, the fans, who know the real story of his struggles in full and the journey he has been through to get this story fully told. But there's a third element to the lyrics here. So one, it's about the entire story for the Xenoblade series. The second one is about Takahashi reflecting with himself with the entire Xeno series as well, and also a retrospective on the entire Xeno series as well. But this third one, it's not about those two. So it's not about a reflection on the Xenoblade series, it's not about Takahashi's journey with this story. The third addition that this song brings is that it's also a message for us to reflect as fans on the story he has told and how it has impacted us. Here, he's not just telling us and himself about this journey, but he is also talking to us. He's telling us that there will be more to the story, and that it's okay if we're sad that this portion of the story is done, and that now we can all move forward to a new future and a new story together. So this is not the end, but the closing section of a long chapter. It is also special because for this closing chapter, Takahashi asked his longtime music collaborator Yasunori Mitsuda to compose this song, and Yasunori has worked on the music for Xenogears, Xenosaga 1, and all the Xenoblade games except for Xenoblade X. And to make this particular song even more special than how it already is, they ended up getting the original singer that sang the song, the closing song that was composed for Xenogears and Xenosaga 1. So this kind of brings it as a closing sensation as well to the song, and it explains why this song is so similar to the closing song from Xenogears and Xenosaga Episode 1. There's really just so much passion put into Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed. It's as if they went all out with everything that they could, so much so that the music for Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed together has the most music across any of the Xeno games. In interviews too, it's pretty easy to see how much they wanted to add so much to this game and how much they were surprisingly able to. And I don't just mean that in the music sense, but everything as a whole. It really seemed like Takahashi really made this as if it was the last game he would ever make, with so much care, passion, and focus that the other people involved really just kept thinking he was crazy for adding more and more to it, according to the interviews that's been publicized. And while this was true with the base game as well, and now that we have Future Redeemed out, we really see just how much detail we got with everything. It really shows just how much special the series is for him. So I said all of this about the music, and I keep mentioning other elements as well, but what are those other elements? And a lot of it comes to the story and little details, but before we get into that, let's quickly talk about some in-between things first. Real quick, the fastest thing, let's just talk about the gameplay. It's similar to the base game, though no Ouroboros fusion. Instead, we get an Ouroboros avatar-like mechanic thing, which helps in fighting, and it's really cool as it ties directly into the lore of the base game that the base game explained and basically set up and honestly builds up on it. Other than that, the gameplay is pretty similar to the base game. I have seen some people saying it's a little bit better, but for me, I like both the same. Now, let's talk on about the themes that I had mentioned earlier. So, as I said, this game talks a lot about many of the same themes and concepts as the base game. However, it goes into a little bit more into the details with some of these things, such as what is and what is not gender norms, the anima and anima of a person, the role of free will in the universe, and how our wills, thoughts, and emotions can bring forth many outcomes. And there's also a lot more biblical references in Future Redeemed than in any other Xenoblade games. Like these themes are, they have always been present, but here they're literally like right there in front of you in a very, very broad, clear way, just as they were in Xenosaga and in Xenogears, though still slightly censored in some cases. So basically, we have the concept of A and Z, basically representing Alpha and Omega, which again is a biblical reference. And then we have the concept of starting a new world due to the current one being torn with violence, which is similar to what happened during the flood with Noah in the Bible. Then we have the theme of the power of the universe setting things to be as it should be, and how time is different than what others think. This kind of goes into more of the metaphysical and spiritual things that I did talk about in my analysis of Xenoblade 3. Again, it's just further explored here. If you guys want to see my in-depth analysis of Xenoblade 3, again, the link to the playlist of the order of these essays that you guys should be watching is in the description below. But basically, in Xenoblade Future Redeemed, there are a lot of other references to the Bible and so many teachings from many different religions in the game, basically. So it's a very interesting thing to look into. But since I won't be going too into that with this particular essay, I would just say that these are generally big topics that are touched in more in Future Redeemed, like I mentioned, and they were just only talked about or teased within the base game. Again, Future Redeemed really enhances a lot of these concepts and themes, especially in the spiritual and metaphysical side of stuff. Now, there is one more big theme and concept that Future Redeemed talks about that is also somewhat touched in the base game, but like all those other topics, it's not super looked into, and that is the theme of family. So this particular theme is touched on just as strongly as those other themes I mentioned earlier in Future Redeemed. And honestly, it's rather emotional because of this, because of how focused it is. How focused it is on family, on free will, and hope for the uncertain future, and how the uncertain future itself is a driving force in this game. It is interesting to see how people in this world see their family and how they handle interacting with each other. And honestly, this kind of comes off as really realistic and in a subtle way that people often don't realize. It also shows the concept of family in a more vulnerable way, especially with Shulk, Rex, and N. These concepts are touched on so purely that it's impressive how many other stories in general don't really get to be this honest about these topics. But these are just the small surface area of what this game does so well. But with all of that said, the last two big topics that I have to talk about is one, the huge deep dive into the things that this game does so well, and that's the story, which includes the overall story, the characters and the callbacks and everything with that. And then the second point being all of the connections. Let's go into the connections first. This game connects so much. So many things is answered and so many things is revealed, and it's done in a fantastic pace too. It really does a fantastic job in connecting Xenoblade 1, 2, and their DLC and 3 together. However, some things is still not really answered, such as if N-Sword really did use the power from Malus's core crystal. If so, how did he get that? A few other things are just implied, such as Numa's core crystal appearing due to the wills of the party focusing on beating Alpha and needing help. And basically, I say this because it's kind of implied based off of the information that the game tells us before the big final fight and during the final fight. And then there's some things that's just not answered at all or even hinted at, such as who's Mithra's kid? Honestly, the art book for Xenoblade 3, like the big fancy one, is coming out in April. I've already pre-ordered it. It's in Japanese only, but they did a Q&A for fans. They asked fans to write their questions, and I really, really hope This question is gonna be there. It has to be there because I doubt that it's just us in the West that is going crazy about who Mithras Kid is. Anyway, little rant out of the way, going back to the script. But for the most part, mostly everything that was left unanswered, again, mostly everything, it is answered, which is great. But the biggest connection comes at the end of the game, where they confirm so many of my theories. And one of those is that Xenoblade X is connected after all, and that made me so happy, so excited, and I'm so glad it's actually canon because it hasn't been all along, and I've been talking about that nonstop to all my friends who I talk about the Xeno series online for a long time, and with two big long videos, and now I'm writing a third one on that. So that is something that I am so happy for. But at the same time, even if it made me so happy and excited, it was slightly spoiled to me since a few people told me in one of my other Xenoblade X connects to Xenoblade 3 videos that I made. They kind of hinted in those videos that I made because again, I didn't beat it until way later after everyone else did. So I was trying to avoid all the spoilers I could, but some people commented on my videos regarding Xenoblade 3 and Xenoblade X, and it was kind of like, you need to do a follow-up video now. Like comments like that. So in my mind, I'm like, wait, did they confirm that Xenoblade X is connected? So it was kind of spoiled in that way, but not fully, but at the same time, kind of, but not really at the same time. So when I saw that, I got super excited that I was right, and that turns out other people noticed it too. So that makes me really happy. So yeah, this was really cool and it surprised me a lot, and I'm just glad that this theory was right. Now, the second biggest connection is one that really surprised everyone, and that somehow Takahashi was able to connect both Xenosaga and Xenogears into Xenoblade, and this was mind-blowing. I don't really remember just yet if I talked about this later on in this essay. It's again, I wrote this back in October. It's February. I did not reread this as I'm recording this, but I don't really think that he added Xenogears into Xenoblade for reasons that I'm gonna be talking about in another video. But the short version is Xenosaga was supposed to eventually fully adapt Xenogears, from my understanding of how the production for Xenosaga was. So they already had some of the background, some of the same terminologies, and since it's connected now, since Xenosaga is now connected to Xenoblade, Xenoblade basically retells Xenogears, which again, I made a video on this, you guys can watch that. It's in that playlist in the description. But basically, for me, I believe and think that Xenoblade basically takes over the events of Xenogears. Not saying that Xenogears couldn't have happened in that this new universe, but I just don't really think that it's fully connected. And again, I'm gonna be talking about this in my next video in a lot more details. But moving on. So the way why I say that this is shocking basically is that Xenogears again was the original story and told part 5 of the Perfect Works story outline, and Xenosaga started off as a unofficial yet prequel to it, telling the first 3 parts of the Perfect Works story. Again, I did a video on this. It's in the description. But then in a way, even though it started as a unofficial prequel to Xenogears, in a very rushed way, it was also made into a unofficial yet official sequel to Xenogears, but it basically rushed through parts 4 to 6, given that we now see that Xenosaga 3 did include elements of the part 6 of the story, which we now know that is true due to Xenoblade 3 being out and Xenoblade 3 being all of part 6. And Xenoblade 3 also had so many elements from Xenosaga 3 as well. So in short, Xenosaga was to be connected unofficially yet somewhat officially to Xenogears, and then Xenoblade was a full-out retelling of the Perfect Works story, with no connections to Xenosaga or Xenogears. That's how it was originally going to be from my understanding. Again, I could be wrong on that, but from my understanding, Xenoblade was supposed to be just a full-out retelling of the Perfect Works story. Again, I've made videos on this, please watch those. But with Future Redeemed now being out, they ended up making it all connected. So Xenoblade is not a retelling, it's just part of the story, part of the Perfect Works outline in that original format, just different. Again, it's gonna be making so much more clear in my next video and in if you compare it with the videos I made before. Because again, it's no longer like it's part of Xenogears because it's redoing Xenogears. It's basically like a remake of Xenogears in a way. So it's part of Xenosaga doing all of the episodes that Xenosaga didn't cover, and also parts of the episodes that Xenosaga did cover. So again, it is connected that way. But yeah, just the fact that they connected the all of these different trademarks and names and companies together to literally connect it, that's just genius and amazing. And just with a few simple lines and icons as well, that's just perfect. But before all of this happened, a few fans did think that there was a multiverse kind of thing happening, and that all three versions of the story were connected, but just in different versions of the story. So they were kind of half right with that, but instead it's again not different versions of the story being shown in a multiverse point of view. It's literally just like I mentioned earlier, straight up just a long story that is connected, not really multiversal. And now some of you might say, well, the world of Xenoblade 1 and the world of Xenoblade 2 are literally a planet split into different pocket dimensions. Yes, but it's not like an alternate universe. That's what I'm trying to explain, because that's what a lot of people were thinking with the multiverse theory, is that they were thinking it's an alternate universe. But yeah, basically Future Redeemed confirmed that this is all just straight up one story that came from one location, the same starting point. It's from the beginning to the end, not multiversal, not different dimensions, or sorry, not alternate realities. That's what I'm trying to explain. Multi-dimensional, multi-universal, I guess you can use that term because of the planet splitting into different pocket dimensions, sure. But yeah, alternate reality, that's not where the direction of this was going. But yeah, so all of that is amazing. I'm sorry if that section was a little bit messy. I kept like stop reading the script, going back to the script, stop reading the script, going back to the script. So sorry about that. But all of this was amazing. And when we saw all of those small blink and you'll miss it moments that does this huge big connection, it was just shocking. And it was really just surprising how across three different video game companies and three different retellings of the story, Takahashi really was able to pull these three together. Again, I keep saying these three, but really it's just these two, Xenosaga and Xenoblade. But if you want to add Xenogears, sure. But moving on, so this is even great as it brings in even more closure to Takahashi and longtime fans, just like the song section I mentioned earlier. And honestly, even the post-credit scenes show a blue dot entering Earth, which many people assume to be Cosmos, or maybe it's Alma. This was honestly just a big thank you to the fans and a huge, big, I finally did it moment to Takahashi, and I am so happy for him and so grateful for this. However, I know that many people still say that Xenoblade X can't be connected due to the dates given in the cutscene where we do get these connections from, and the dates don't match with Xenoblade X. But again, my next video is going to address that because the dates do match. And it's not related to years. Again, I'm so excited for that particular video, so please watch that. Anyway, moving on. Basically, what I just want to say now is that while it's clear he did connect Xenoblade X and Xenosaga to Xenoblade 3, again, as I mentioned earlier, I still just don't think he connected Xenogears as well. So basically, the next section that I was just looking at here, ironically, is what I was trying to explain earlier about how Xenoblade is a retelling of everything, of Xenogears at least. So I'm not going to read all of that again, or at all, because I was talking about this earlier and I didn't realize that it was further ahead. But what I will say, because it is part of the next section and I think it goes off pretty good with what I just said, that Xenogears, I don't personally really think it is connected, because again, I do think that Xenoblade is the reboot of that and is connected to Xenosaga, as in taking the place of where Xenogears would have been originally. So basically what I want to add here is that I think with us knowing that the fact that Xenosaga takes the backstory of Xenogears into account, but it would also at the same time would not have kept the main events of Xenogears in the narrative once it adapted that portion of the Perfect Work story into its own version in a theoretical Xenosaga episode 5, it makes sense to say that all of Xenoblade, including the DLCs such as Torna, Future Connected, and Future Redeemed, so all of them is basically a theoretical Xenosaga episode 4, 5, and 6. But if I'm saying all of this, how is it that then I explain that Xenoblade Future Redeemed includes mentions of Xenogears? Again, as I said earlier, it is due to Xenosaga having the same backstory and elements of Xenogears, and it is covered in the story itself. But again, I could be wrong, and maybe the event of Xenogears really does still take place in this continuity and isn't retconned out due to Xenoblade 1 and 2 in the narrative. It is very possible. I mean, I just need to research more into it and into the mentions that are given, as it's basically been a while since I played Xenogears. Again, I did write my thoughts on that when I first beat it. Hopefully soon I can release my review for that. But given what we know happens in Xenogears, it is more safe to say that Xenogears is not a part of the narrative and it was retconned out due to Xenoblade 1 and 2. But that all of the information that was told in Xenogears from before, the main events of the game happens was reworked in Xenosaga. All of that information, it still stays into effect as all of that happens before Xenogears even takes place for the most part. With that said, it still was amazing to see these connections, and I'm still so glad that Xenosaga is connected, and it makes me curious for how the next story will be. I'm also glad that Xenoblade X is finally confirmed to be connected, as again, I've been saying this since Xenoblade X came out, even though people told me I was crazy for thinking so. But again, that's for my next essay. So I just hope we get the Xenoblade X port soon, along with the Xenosaga Trilogy remaster and the Xenoblade X2 as well. But now with the connection of Xenosaga being part of the story, it makes me kind of wonder if Elma, Shulk, and Fiora joining Xenoblade 2's DLC Blades was canon. I know a lot of people say that Shulk and Fiora can't be canon in meeting Rex as Blades in Xenoblade 2's DLC, but maybe it could happen in some way, just not with the actual Monado, but a Monado replica, like one that is later made in development. And also Elma could have been canon too. But maybe for those two, it's not really the case since that was just DLC Blades, but that does bring me back to Xenosaga. Basically, maybe there was clues since the beginning about this connection to Xenosaga. In Xenoblade 2, the base game includes Telios and Cosmos as Blades, which I still don't have Cosmos. But yeah, it includes them. People thought that this was just an Easter egg, and honestly, when Xenoblade 2 released, I didn't even know about Cosmos. I thought, I might have known a little bit about Xenosaga being a thing, but I didn't really know who Cosmos was, so I never really understood the hype around these two being Blades until I played Xenosaga. Anyway, that was in the base game, and recently I found out that in the Japanese version of Xenoblade 2, Cosmos is called Cosmos Re, while Telios is called Telios Re, which basically implies them as Blades, it's not supposed to be the real them, but a remake of them. So it makes me wonder if Takahashi had been playing this connection with Xenosaga for a much longer period of time, and honestly having remakes of the trilogy would make sense in my opinion. Now, we got all of this out of the way. So what do I think about this story? Honestly, it was brilliant. So many of my theories came true, so I'm really happy with that. And one of those theories is that it was a mixture of a prequel and a sequel. But I do wish that we got to see more of the present day and how the worlds are now that they are merged. But I'm still glad that we did get to see a general section of the present happening. Even though it was literally I don't know, 10 seconds long. I do wish though overall that we did get to see Pyra and Mithra's kid, or some other members of the Xenoblade 1 party, but at least we know what happened to them all. There was still a few other things that I wish that the story told or showed, but it didn't. But compared to the amount that they did, that I did want to be shown and explained, honestly, for me, the balance kind of worked out in that way. I also loved seeing how the founders were formed and how they all came together. Though honestly, I do have to say that Glimmer is not like Pyra at all, and I still even do question if she's actually Mithra's kid instead. I mean, I know she's not, but her attitude was not like Pyra at all. So this was a bit off-putting at first, but you do get used to it and she does calm down towards the end. Nico, though, he's just straight out Shulk and Fiora in so many ways, and I'm really glad that they made him their kid instead of Chris, like so many people thought would be the case. I also love to see Alvis back, but in the form of A. A is a fantastic character and had great chemistry with Matthew. Now, as for Matthew, I thought that he was great, and his search for Niall was heartful too, as were his reactions within. They even brought forth some more light into N's thoughts and actions, which made him even more complex than he already was. I think there was a great balance in revealing all these connections and how everything basically tied together. I also love to see that Riku was actually one of the founders. He was basically the seventh mysterious founder, and that was pretty cool and funny. A lot of people did kind of theorize that a little bit, but to see it confirmed, I just find it hilarious. But now, before I forget, we have to talk about Shulk and Rex. They, along with Noah, are characters I relate to a lot, and seeing them older, scarred, and grown up is shocking, but in a good way. Well, not the injured part, but the rest, yes. It's nice to see how Shulk has basically taken elements from Dunban and Dixon and has become his own person as well. He has a bigger sense of calmness that Dunban had, and also Dunban's look and style as well. But from Dixon, he has that bigger sense of viewing the whole situation out and knowing when not to jump ahead and basically knowing when to manipulate the situation as well. He still has his own self in that mix, in being smart and kind and worries about others. And it seems that his rage has gone away, which is really nice because Shulk, you can tell how kind and caring he is. But one of the issues I have with Xenoblade 1 is that he doesn't let that show. He's just so mad a lot of the times, with very good reason. But to be able to see him in a much calmer, way, in a way that he can breathe, I really, really like this. Now, as for Rex, he's still goofy, though he shows it a lot less, basically due to being a lot more focused. He's definitely got traits from both Van Damme and Zeke now. From Zeke, he has his looks as well as basically hiding his goofiness and showing off his skills more. While from Van Damme, he got his passion of helping others, being a leader, and his kindness. However, it also seems that Rex has lost a lot more than Shulk, as Shulk often worries about Rex, and that Rex is often more somber than Shulk, though often showing his classic laid-back attitude when the moment allows him to. So it's pretty cool that he found the balance with that, still allowing himself to be himself in moments where he's able to take a breath. I really like that. Now, while Shulk didn't really change his appearance too much, just basically a robotic arm and longer hair, and he's also a lot stronger, Rex changed a lot. He still looks like him, but now he has facial hair, and he's not just stronger, he's really stronger. But for me, that's only one of the two biggest changes with Rex. The other is his voice. Rex is a few years younger than Shulk. However, Rex sounds so much older than Shulk now. He literally sounds like he is in his 60s or 70s with a really big, gruff voice, which is the total opposite of how he sounded in Xenoblade 2. In Xenoblade 3, he should be in his early 40s, given that the timeline of events itself is basically 20 to 25 years after Xenoblade 1 and 2. So the big gruff voice doesn't always suit him, and sometimes it's really strange, but sometimes it does. So I can't complain too much, but then there were the moments where it's like, why did they go with this, take it sound so old? Not trying to be picky with that, it's just I wish that they would have made his voice not so gruff sometimes. But hey, at least his accent is still the same, and I love that accent with Rex. But basically, the reason for this change is due to the voice actor being different. They kept Shulk's voice actor, but not Rex's, and I'm not sure why. I get that some people do have a huge drastic voice change when they change or their body changes, and some people don't. But honestly, like I said, this was just a huge shock to see how different Rex's voice is now compared to before. I'm not sure why they, again, just didn't keep the same voice actor, because for me, unlike most people, I loved Rex's original voice. So I don't know why they just couldn't keep him and just ask him to speak in a different tone. But again, there are moments that you do get used to this new voice actor. Um, there are some nice moments where it really does fit Rex's new look, and it's like, yeah, no, that's just an older Rex. Not old, but just older. So again, there are moments it fits Rex. And honestly, there are a few moments where it almost sounds like it's a pirate talking, and I love that because a pirate also fits Rex so much. So again, the gruffiness, roughness, older, like bigger voice fits Rex in his new design and style. It's just when it sounds like a really old man, that's where my complaint is. You again, you still get used to it, and the really old man sounding gruffness to it isn't very often. But overall, though, I'm really happy with how both Shulk and Rex were handled, as it did do justice to their characters. And I was also so excited to see them again, and also working side by side. Whether you consider the Blade Shulk in Xenoblade 2 as canon or not, this time it is canon. So actually seeing them work side by side and them being friends for so many years, it was just so nice. And I'm also very glad that we got to see Zeke and Pandoria had a baby and that they were together, as did Ryan and Charla. So I'm very happy with that. And I'm also just so glad to have gotten information on what happened to everyone. Honestly, for me, this was just a fantastic way in handling the storytelling and how everything was handled, and I'm just so grateful for it as well. In the end, Xenoblade Future Redeemed did just about everything I wanted to do. Not always in the way I wanted it to be, but still, what I wanted, it was given. And I'm just so grateful and I thank God so much for this. And I'm just so happy with Future Redeemed. For me, this really is worthy of being a game of the year together with the base Xenoblade 3, which was already for me like a big game of the year kind of game. So this is the accumulation of so many years of struggling to tell a story to the world. And really what it brought is a masterpiece. This is the story of a man chasing his dreams and finally being able to realize it fully. This is the story of how we as humans should always look forward and have faith and walk to the horizon we want and the journey we picked and will still pick in the future. And no matter how badly we screw something up, things can be fixed in time. It's a story of love, life, and faith and free will. And it's the story of how the universe is really stranger than most people think, and really just how beautiful it is as well. There's just so much I can say about this series, but I've already taken Takahashi in my thoughts for the base Xenoblade 3 game, and in that video I also explained how this series means so much to me. So everything I said here still applies there, and what I said there applies here. But what I want to add even more now is how happy I am for you, Takahashi. You did it. You finally did it and achieved this wonderful dream. And actually, yes, so I was right. I did write about this later on. This year that the game released, 2023, it is the 25th anniversary for the Xeno series. And honestly, what an amazing gift to give this series on its anniversary year. A game that accumulates everything that you've been trying to do. So thank you for never giving up on it across the past 25 years. Thank you, Takahashi, for being true to yourself, your passion, your dreams. Thank you for putting in your all in Xenoblade as a whole. And for the lengths you went. And for the lengths you went in with trying to get the connections that you did for Future Redeemed. I'm sure that this was a big victory for you, and I thank you for all of us, the fans who know your story and that have supported you as well in any way. It really is a victory for all of us, so just thank you, Takahashi, for all you've done. The Xeno story is a story I relate to a lot, and its characters are characters I relate to a lot too. So just thank you, Takahashi, for these masterpieces and these stories, because now the future is fully free to be whatever story you want and wish to tell, and we will walk with you to that new story and embrace it as we have with this one. It has taken you 25 years to fully and finally tell this story. It's a story you've been familiar with for so long but knew so well, and while the future might be scary, in thinking of how to tell whatever story you will come up with, we will be by your side with our support and care. So here's to the future, Takahashi. May the next story in the Xeno series be as full of life and passion as you have always shown it and us. I wanted to include this little note here to Takahashi because, as I said earlier in the video, and right now, this is the 25th anniversary, or it was, because it's now 2024, for the Xeno series. And as I mentioned, it's something that means a lot to me, and it's something that means a lot to him. And I just feel like it wasn't really celebrated. For him, I'm sure he was celebrating it so much. This is the accumulation of everything, and I'm releasing it this year. Now, was it intentional to release it on the 25th anniversary? I have no idea. Probably not. But the fact is, it was. So, still, it is so special for that to have happened. It's like things just aligned perfectly in a very unique and mysterious way. So, I do thank God for allowing this to happen as well. This little letter for Takahashi is just me in my internal thoughts, just expressing my gratitude and thankfulness for him pushing through with his story and for giving us something that many of us can relate to, and something that is unique, something that you don't really see a lot of game developers or stories being told in. So it's just really a thank you. And I thank all of you who sat through my ramblings and my thoughts and my jumping out of the script and into the script. Sorry it felt a little disjointed, but I do thank you all who ever watched this video in full, and who's watched all of my other Xeno series videos as well. So just thank you guys so much. I am so sorry that the editing for this video sucked, because again, I just want to get this video out. So I'm sorry it was mostly like a podcast with a few pictures and maybe a few music. Don't know, we'll see how that goes. And maybe a few video clips, we'll see. So I'm sorry that the editing was bad. I will do a better editing with my next video, which is the third part of how Xenoblade X connects to Xenoblade 3 and the Xeno series as a whole. That should be coming out pretty soon. I know I said earlier that that's going to be the next video, but honestly, I have an idea for a much shorter video that I might just release right before that, in between it, while I'm working on that one. But either way, we'll see. If it's not the next video, it's the video after. So either way, I just hope you guys watch my next Xenoblade videos. I'm so sorry this took so long to watch, but really, I do just thank you all so much for sticking through with these videos. And with this particular one as well, with all my jumping around. I hope you guys enjoyed the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the Future Redeemed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I hope you guys just enjoyed the story as a whole. Let me know what you guys think of the game. Let me know your thoughts of this series as a whole in the comments below. And yeah, let's just see what's next. The next Xeno arc, let's say. Because it is confirmed that there will be more Xenoblade games. So I'm very excited for that. But now, if that's going to be Xenoblade 4, Xenoblade X2, Xenosaga 4, we don't know. Maybe Xenoblade 4 will be Xenoblade X2, Xenosaga 4, and Xenoblade 4 all mixed together into one story, so that way he does not need to worry about trying to get approval from the other companies. I mean, Xenoblade X is still Nintendo, so it's not an issue, but point is, maybe Xenoblade 4 will be X2 and Xenosaga 4, along with its own thing as well. So I'm excited for that. That's what I hope it will be, but I still do hope maybe we'll get an X2, a port of X, and the remasters for the trilogy for Xenosaga, along with the Pied Piper and the Lost Story, and the Missing Year put together in a really cool collection. Because those are like some side stories for Xenosaga, which is very important to the plot as well. But with all that said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.